All right. All right. So closer of the month, Emma Matthews. We have Emma Matthews for the November closer of the month. Welcome, Emma Matthews.
Thank you, Tina Leader. Great to be here.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to just start off for those of you who do not know, Emma Matthews is part of season 2 and she's here now. She's killing it. Why don't, Emma, you just tell them a little bit about what you were doing before HCC?
Yeah, so it feels like a complete lifetime ago for me, Tina, because life has just completely changed. So this time last year, I was recovering from a massive burnout in corporate. So I had a 12-year, really fast-paced corporate career, started out on this amazing graduate scheme with a bank and just went up the ranks really quickly. I was always that person who went, okay, what is the messiest part of the business that I can go into and just fix it? And I loved that. And I got that kind of that kind of reputation as a fixer for things. So I'd say that was good for about 10 years. And then probably the last 18 months of my career, something changed. It was almost like the fulfillment just went out of it, but I didn't really realize. And at the same time, I took on a new role that was super, super demanding, 18-hour days, heaps of pressure, no real resources and support around me. So I was pushing harder and harder at a point that I think that inner fulfillment had gone. So I didn't spot any signs, but I ended up pretty sick because I just pushed my body beyond the point that probably anyone should really push themselves in an environment where I essentially wasn't happy. So hit a massive burnout, the kind where you kind of feel like you've hit a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. So I went from being in a meeting one day at work and then suddenly feeling like, oh, I just don't feel right. Just completely break down.
Physically don't feel right?
It was almost like just like this fire went off in my brain and I just couldn't really process stuff anymore, and I felt really emotional, which was weird for me because at the time, if you'd have known me, I was like this rational robot. I didn't really do emotional. It was just all about, okay, what needs doing by when, very kind of process orientated. And then suddenly all these emotions whoosh, and I remember being in the office and just going really shaky and being like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry, I need to go home. And that was a Friday night. I literally cried the whole way home and didn't get out of bed pretty much for a week. And it was the scariest thing ever because I had no idea what was happening to me at the time, because I'd always been able to cope with anything at all that life threw at me. And then suddenly my body went, you can't do this anymore. You've not listened to me, so I'm going to make you stop.
Yeah. Did you seek out some sort of help at the time?
Yeah, so I went to the doctors and I got into a medical process, and it was quite sad actually. The medical professional that I saw basically said, your business is keeping me in business at the moment. The number of people that I see who've just completely burnt out. So yeah, I didn't realize, but it was quite a prevalent thing that happened to people. So
okay, so I imagine at that point, so you obviously sought medical advice. What brought you to HCC? What was the bridge over?
Yeah, so it was at the point that I was into my recovery, but I'd realized that actually if I continued on that path, it was just going to be a cycle that continued happening, because essentially nothing in my environment had changed. So I wasn't fulfilled. It was still a role that was pretty much impossible. So I'm one of those people that I just think, what is the point of continuing when something's not right? Something has to change.
Yeah. Did you know it at the time that it was your job though?
I knew I wasn't fulfilled, and I knew that the environment wasn't going to change. So it was always going to be crazy, which is fine, I think, when you love what you do. But when every day is a push for 18 hours a day and you're kind of not sleeping, there's no time for self-care. It's just, it's not going to be a win-win. So I can remember, I think I was literally Googling how to make money online, the typical thing that people do.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate right now. Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Been there, done that.
And so I started following Stephen James, who I really liked his personality. And then not too long after I'd been following him, this guy called Dan Locke pops up on his channel doing an interview about making money online. And I watched it end to end, and I rationally thought, this should not be appealing to me at all. This is not the kind of thing I do. But I just felt this amazing pull that actually Dan, who I now call my Sifu, is just somebody that I need to learn from. I've got no idea how I'll ever use this skill, but I need to be part of this. And so I just jumped.
Okay, and so why don't you share a little bit about your results that you got after HCC, after you went through the whole program, you pushed through it, you role played in Discord, all of that, and what were your results and what did you do? Because you were still working corporate even during this whole time, correct?
I was, and I had to be really careful while I was on the program because contractually I couldn't earn money in any other way. I couldn't reputationally be seen to be part of the program. So it was all quite, yeah, I remember just doing it very late at night and things like that. So I came to the end of the program and just had enjoyed it so much. I just had this sense that I needed to continue on the path. So I handed in my notice. And basically, as soon as I was contractually out of that position, I started closing in one of Dan's closing teams, which was amazing. So that all happened pretty quickly. Went straight from role playing into a really massive account, which was a huge learning curve.
Yeah,
absolutely huge.
Yeah. Okay. And what are you doing now? And how much? What's your goal? Like, how much are you making? How much were you making before?
So in corporate, I was a director level, so I was multiple six figures, really nice benefits package, but it honestly wasn't worth it. So I started off closing on my own, and I've now kind of shifted across a few accounts to find one that was a great fit. And then as HTM came in, I've had the honor of being able to step up and lead a team on a closing account. So I guess if you look at everything in totality, I'm not quite back to where I was in corporate. But if you look at kind of the hours that I invest now and what I get as a return, the return is massive. And I can also see probably in the next few months, I'll be able to surpass what I did in corporate.
Woo!
Because I'm,
Okay. So how does that feel to you right now? I mean, would you have guessed that you would be in a place that you are right now, given that you're just trying to look up, oh, how can I make money online, et cetera, looking for a way out?
No, at that point, I didn't really have that clear path to how you get out of corporate. I'd gone through a school system where it just trained me to be an employee. I'd always had that sense of I'd love to have my own business, but I mistakenly thought that you had to develop some amazing product to have that kind of freedom. So yeah, and I've been able to create it just through having a high income skill. So it's amazing, and it's happened so quickly.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know, she also adds a lot of value to our community volunteer team, but she's also a community leader. So you are actually working with Dan Locke as a community leader. So for those of you who, going posting and all of that, Emma Matthews here is helping greatly with that as well. And you're closing and you're leading a team. I don't know if we could say who you're working with, but you have a huge account.
Huge account onboarded in the last, it's just been a week actually. But again, it feels like a long time because so much has happened in that week.
And how does it feel that now that you're shifting into, you're closing for yourself in a very short period of time, mind you, closing for just as an individual closer, and now you're leading a team? Just quickly, I want to know how that feels. What's that like?
It's almost like coming home is the only way I can describe it, because the one common thing I loved in my corporate career was building teams. So my kind of typical profile was I'd go into an area of the business that wasn't performing or was in setup stage. I'd create a team to kind of excel in that area. I love developing people as individuals. So just when the opportunity came up to be a leader within HTM, it was a no-brainer for me, because I love that side of things. It strengthens my why, and I love seeing people succeed. So yeah, I just feel really blessed at the moment. I'm working with 16 amazing closers.
16.
Powerful.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that's really great. I do have, well, what would you say to anybody who's in HCC currently, who's going through the HCC program? And what would you say for the people who are continuing and already graduated, but they're struggling through it right now?
I think the biggest thing is consistency and making sure that you're in an accountability type structure that's going to keep you going. So the reality is everyone hits a roadblock at some point. For me, it actually happened, I don't know, 2 to 3 months into closing. I had a really tough time. And I think for me, it was actually, and I've said this to you, Tina, it was being part of the community management team that made me stay on this path, just because it felt like I had a support structure around me. And just because you have a tough time in closing doesn't mean that closing isn't for you. Everyone's going to hit those days where everybody no shows, or you just don't close any calls. And you just have to have a strong enough conviction and vision to know that actually this is a long journey. And it takes time. You have to work at it. I'm still working at things. I'm still out of my comfort zone every day, but I just have enough trust in myself and in seafood to keep going in those moments, and enough amazing people around me to also, I guess, where you need that kind of cheer squad moment, you've got those people that you can go to also for tough love as well. So I'd say my accountability groups, the community management team, they've been key to me, and also just being locked into the next stage of the journey with HTC. So I know I'm that person that always just needs to keep going with what the next phase of the journey is.
Yeah. Beautifully said. That was amazing. Okay, so again, Emma Matthews at the closer of the month for November. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I hope to see everybody soon. Comment below if you can relate. You want to do a shout out to Emma. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina.